Well, and I think too, if the videos don't work, then the videos don't work.
Yeah.
Then we have to just do audio.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. I mean, it is a podcast, so
Yeah, for sure.
it's probably okay if people don't see our faces all the time.
Well, they
But
might want to see our faces all the time.
I mean, obviously, it's a bonus. Come on.
Yeah, it is an absolute bonus.
Well, some people have a face for radio. That's not us.
No, no, that is definitely not us. We don't have faces for
There's
radio.
nothing like no like I'm so grateful Rob is helping with all this and figuring out, but it's nothing like settling into the rhythm of the podcast when somebody's like looking checking the numbers over
I
your
know.
shoulder and
I
but that's
know.
okay. One day we'll be able to afford. He can have his own booth. He'll be seeing what he needs to see. Won't even interrupt you.
Yeah,
He'll have it all down.
hopefully.
Hopefully,
Hopefully.
we're getting there. Tell me about your day. Let's get into it. I feel like we're just out of our groove, but
I
we'll get
know.
into it. So tell me
Well,
tell me how things are going for you and your weekend. It's been a while since we
I
talked.
know. It has because
Mm-hmm.
you were busy and I was kind of just, I don't even know what I was doing. Just trying to, I think I was trying to recuperate from Friday night. And then,
Life.
yeah, my break, my sanity night.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, yeah, Saturday I didn't do too much. I was working on the computer a bunch, but you know, nothing crazy. So,
Nothing
no.
crazy.
And then today it was just
Yeah.
sort of like a slow day. And then I did a bunch of like just research on the computer and, stepped outside for some fresh air and, you know,
Yeah.
like not much at all today actually. And then my kids came home and it was busy after they got home from school because that's how it always is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and then I went to go make supper and I was like, oh, I'm gonna have make chicken. And so I pulled out chicken. There was like not enough chicken in the box. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll make something else.
I guess it's not chicken.
Yeah. So
Uh, well, that's one of the things for us. Like right now with moving, we're so tired of moving. Um, it's been a lot of shuffling and juggling, and our technically we're moving our boys' house. It's not even ours; it's their place and all their stuff. But they had, when we had all moved, we they had inherited a house full of furniture and everything from us, and so they don't want to keep it or take it. And so, but they don't really know what to do with it either because
yeah,
they're young guys, right? They
for
haven't
sure.
had really ever to do all the things that you have to do to actually move out of a place. And so that's been a little overwhelming. And we just moved out of our own place not that long ago and are renovating our van. So it's been kind of tiring. Honestly, I feel like I'm perhaps getting to the point where I'm a little overwhelmed.
Oh yeah. I don't like
And
that feeling.
yeah, no, and I'm sort of one of those people that go, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait a second, I really did bite off more than I can chew, and it's too much. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people do that, right? They just, you know, they just keep going, and then all of a sudden it's like, wait, is this what burnout looks like? Is this what like overwhelm looks like? I preach about it all the time to other people, but for some reason I don't recognize it if
No.
it's me.
I
So
I I think I
that's,
do the
I don't know,
same.
that's a bit,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Nobody likes that. And then you feel like you have to finish, right? But then it's like overwhelming. And so, I don't know. I do it to myself all of the time. And I'm doing it to myself right now too in a different way. And so, but I'm one of those overthinkers and, it's yeah, it can be very overwhelming.
Well, on the weekend, I was pulling stuff out of my closet and like we have to decide what's going into the long term storage, what's coming with us in our van. We're doing some trips, and the trips are to warm weather and cold weather. So, what do I have with me? What can be, what don't I need for a long time? And so, on the weekend I'd sort of pulled stuff out of my closet, all this storage, and I got halfway through, and this is so classic. My room is just like a mess, and I call one of my sons and I'm like, Nate, look, my ADHD threw up all over my room. He starts laughing because he's like, Mom, look at mine. And he opens his door and it's the same, right? Because we've
Yeah.
been staying with them while we're renovating the van. So yeah, sadly, that's many people in our family have like maybe I call ADHD, but I think right now everybody's self-diagnosing with ADHD. But
Oh yeah.
I do feel like it's just that clutter and overwhelm and start and then can't finish, and I think that's that's a
Yeah.
struggle.
I know I
But
try to
what do you do?
prioritize and like write a list so that I can stay focused and on track. And it doesn't always work, but I always have good intentions for it to work. And I'm like, I'm gonna do it this time, and my list is great and it's organized, and but all we can do is try, get it done.
Well, and you binge watch the TikToks that show you how to be organized and how to unplug and how to not feel stressed and overwhelmed. Then you save some of those TikTok videos to put in a notes app for later because you want to remind yourself of how to not feel stressed and overwhelmed and have like accurate lists. And then you can't find or remember, wait, didn't I like save a video of that somewhere, but I have no idea. It's the classic thing where you make a list but then forget you made the list, or you
Yeah,
lost the list and you have to start over on a list, and you're like, wait, didn't I write this all down? I
yeah.
can't remember.
Or you're like, I know there is something on that list that I'm forgetting, and it's like, what is it? And it's driving me nuts, right? Like, and it's never a complete
Yeah,
list. Yeah, but
at least I've learned to make my lists on my phone or the computer. I know you still do it old school with a pen and paper, but at least I can't lose my phone. Now I
yeah,
might lose where on my phone I posted that video or that list, but at least it's there somewhere.
yeah. I have a
I would think.
trillion. Yeah, yeah. You would think I have a trillion coil books, a trillion of them. I use them for everything. It's yeah. I don't
Yeah,
know.
you've said that's how you manage, but then you can't find it, or I know
I
that for a fact cuz
That's you know what? That's just you just never mind, okay?
I'll, I'll just sit back here and mind my own
Yeah,
beeswax.
yeah, just yeah, don't even do it.
uh
So when do you guys have to actually be out? By the end of this week?
yeah. Well, sort of. I mean, I'm going to Chiefs Potlatch over the weekend and then after that. But there's a lot of moving parts, so I'm not exactly sure if we're all going at the same time or if some of us are going earlier and some later. We're trying to just make those arrangements now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I want to ask you, what's is there anything you're working on these days or learning or thinking about, or it's on your mind?
What's on my mind?
Mhm.
I don't know what's on my mind because I feel like I have too many folders open right now, you know?
Mhm.
Um,
Like mentally
yeah,
too many
I
folders?
do. I
Mhm.
think I'm like, and I'm not quite being able to prioritize properly. So I feel like I'm kind of like stuck at the
Mhm.
front. I need to get some of those things into the back, like checked off the list, and it's just not.
Yeah.
I'm really struggling with that, and I don't know if it's just everything at one time. So my brain doesn't, you know, I don't know, doesn't
Yeah.
know how to.
Do you think that yeah, do you think that has anything to do with back to school? Like I remember it's a long time since my kids were, in the September, but I seem to remember that being an obvious busy time, right? For sure, but
Yeah,
do you think it's also come like does it kind of all just come to a head at September and then you got to find your groove,
yeah.
or is it something different than you've experienced before?
No, I would say that this is probably pretty normal just because you're trying to get back into the routine of getting your kids off to school and then kind of, getting
Mhm.
your day kind of done. And like, I mean, now I'm doing something different. So I'm like working from home. And so it's a bit different. And then I'm trying
Mhm.
to, like get my life kind of organized. And it just doesn't seem like it,
Yeah.
I can't really find my groove. And then it's, the kids come home from school and then it's quite hectic and chaotic because again, like I have two kids that need me all the time, right? So I'm
Mhm.
quite all over the place. And so it gets pretty busy
Mhm.
around here. So it's just trying to trying to find that what works again, and
Yeah,
it's
and I remember just the kids just barely getting to school, and all of a sudden it's almost time for them to come home,
yeah,
and you're like, "Wait, where did the day
I
go? I thought
know.
I had all day to get things done," or
Yeah,
and then you go to the freezer and you find out you don't have enough freaking chicken for
yes,
supper, and now what? It's
I
like, "Hey,
know.
Costco hot dogs, I don't know."
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do?
Well, yeah, and even too, like, I mean, for my youngest boy, like, he starts hockey right away. So then it's like just even more busy, right? And then trying to like,
Mm.
and then winters are always busy for my husband. So just trying to find the groove of the fall, winter, it just kind of gets
Yeah.
a little bit much. But I mean, you find your groove, you find what works, and you get through it.
Mhm.
Maybe
Mhm.
with a stiff drink at the end of the week, but
Well, you got to do what you got to do.
yeah.
Do you I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, but I know you've been working on your own sort of like e-learning course or
Hmm.
something to I know that's, stuff we talk about kind
Yeah.
of in our work life, but how's that going? Like I know that's something you've been trying to do and wanting to do for a long time.
I
Like
know.
it's what, like a finance course for young
Yeah.
people
So
or
it's like I'm trying to
mm,
do it so it's geared towards like people who are trying to, take that next step, leaving their parents' home. Or, for
yeah,
people who just
emerging adults
emerging
as we've
adults.
coined them.
Yes. And for
Yeah.
anybody who just maybe wants to like find a different way, because if they're struggling or whatever to just be financially successful and have a healthy relationship with
Mhm.
money and their finances and their income and just kind of find a way that works for them that they're comfortable with and that they're not, you know, kind of just, flying by the seat of their pants, right? But
Yeah,
it's more
yeah.
for like, I had this conversation with my oldest daughter who was like, I left school and now it's like I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to like, credit or what is interest or how do I get a mortgage or how do I apply for housing? And it's all things that like
Mhm.
I know are not necessarily taught in school. So I just felt that, I see my daughter struggle and, trying to get her on the right path and educated and show her how to do things. And it's like, I think it's so essential for our kids to be set up for success. And I think that there's something
Mhm.
really important in knowing something as simple as applying for utilities for your home. A lot of people don't know how to do that
Mhm.
or where to look. It's those first steps that a lot of us just are not aware of. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of what I've kind of been putting together is, like like a bunch of information and you can talk to me and we can have like a one-on-one and we can do a um
Mhm.
like a more specific and personalized experience, but it's for somebody who, doesn't have a lot of money, but somebody who just wants some help and it's affordable and it's, you know, I'm just
Yeah, and often that age group doesn't really care for what their parents have to say about it. So you could say
no.
the exact same thing to my kid and they'd probably listen to it,
Mhm.
where if I said it to my kid, they're like, "Oh, whatever, mom, what do you know?" But it's interesting, like right now our guys of course are moving into, they're looking for a new apartment. Up until now they've had a lot of help securing that, right? Like either we got the place and then they just moved into it or whatever, but they're trying to do it on their own. And even knowing how to have the right documentation available and ready, right? Like your credit score, your employment history, your reference letters,
Mhm.
the proof of employment, right? All of those things are like a package that you kind
Yeah.
of have to have ready to go. Not, hey, some landlords interested in letting us apply, but now it, like they want all this stuff, and by the
Mhm.
time they get all the stuff, the place is gone, right?
Pretty
So
much.
even just, yeah, understanding how to do that ahead of time. And when I did a lot of training with like job readiness and employment training for young adults, that was one thing they had no idea about. A credit score, how do you
Mhm.
get it, why is it important, the fact that it's free, you can get it for free, um, or how to get the your landlord to give you the reference, or how to get your employment history, like those things they just didn't know. They didn't
Mhm.
I had one young woman, she was so smart, she still is, she's not past 10, she's very smart.
Yeah.
She's now an apprentice on job sites, like she's doing such great, and she's making really good bank, like
Mhm.
she's young, but now she's, because she's in these trades, she's making a lot of money. She It was a year into her working and she said, Raylene, I don't know what to do. Like, all she had was her checks. Of course, they're direct deposit, right? Because
Hmm.
most employers do that now. They don't just hand you a check.
Yeah.
Direct deposit, but she didn't. She knew how to get the basics out, but she didn't know what to do with it. She didn't know
Hmm.
about savings accounts. She didn't know if she should have a credit card. A lot of people don't realize that in order to build your credit rating, having a credit card or like your cell phone in your own name, like those things can actually really help you
Yeah.
if you use them wisely and well. But she
Absolutely.
didn't know any of that. And I was
Yeah.
so shocked. Like, how did you get through all of this and not know?
Hmm.
And the weird thing is that I taught her some of that early, before she got that job, but it kind of went in one ear and out
Yeah.
the other because it wasn't relevant to her, at that moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hard.
It is hard. And I think, I was having a conversation with my youngest about just getting himself prepared, right? And it's just, there's steps that you need to take, and it's important to follow those steps. And then it's
Hmm.
important to adjust them if it needs to be adjusted and keep on top of it because, you want to have a healthy relationship with your money. You want to have a healthy relationship with yourself, right? Like it's just, there are
Hmm.
things that you want to do that you don't want them to be frustrating because you have no way of finding out, or it's a hassle to find out, or you're not looking in the right spots. But it's nice to have that information and be told it, and then you can use it because it's a tool, right? And so
Yeah.
I think it's important, and it's something that our kids are really lacking.
It's I think there's also a lot of shame associated to it as well. Like I think of my older daughters and some of their friends, and they're maybe making money. They're trying to, they're trying to adult. They're in
Yeah.
their like late 20s, 30ish now, and they're all trying to adult. And even things like just encouraging them to keep a folder with all your key documents. Like, don't let it be random. Make sure you've got backups on your phone and computer. Like, make your life easier by having those things somewhat organized.
Mhm.
I have an app on my phone. I mean, if I died or somebody wanted to steal all my passwords, right, they'd have to figure out what it is. But I have
Mhm.
made sure that things are very organized so people can go through them if I needed that help or
Yeah.
something came up, right? But it is, I think we learn those things as we get older. And I love the idea of your program because trying to like pull that together and give people, it's like you need to, young people and older people need to feel empowered, not
Mhm.
shamed,
Yeah.
for what they don't know.
Yeah.
And I think that's the nice thing about the program you're trying to develop is that whether you're an emerging adult, like an older teenager, a young college student, or a 50 something year old person who's like, I never really learned this and I
Mhm.
feel so ashamed I can't. It's like not knowing how to read.
Yeah.
You get to a certain point where you feel so ashamed that you don't tell anybody.
Mhm.
Financial literacy, even at its basic level, can also be like that.
Yeah. Well, and it
So hopefully people will find you and like work with you. Oh, sorry, my light just went out. Come on, light. Because I think it'd be so beneficial, right, to them.
well, and it's not something that you don't use, right? Like it's something that you deal with almost every day, and it's one of those things that like it's really important to be successful with.
We have worked with a lot of immigrants, new Canadians, people coming, young people coming from other places. And also, when I traveled to Ecuador and visited our mutual family member there, there's something about the work ethic, and not to like cast shade on the work ethic here, but there's something very different about the level that people will go to in order to come here, right? In the
Mhm.
amount of work those young people do, it's a massive amount of work, not just the education alone, which is usually advanced degrees,
Mhm.
multiple degrees, and when we took all of our kids to visit our family, our cousin in Ecuador, when our kids were quite young. I think the oldest was maybe 16 and the youngest was 4, I don't know, 3, 4. And we met their friends, right? And their friends also had 5 kids, 5 girls, and the work that they were putting into for these kids to get an education. They wanted their kids to be educated in the United States, and that would cost so much money.
Mhm.
From a place where a cab ride is $2, right? The one father was a cab driver, so he's not making a ton of money. But they saved everything to be able to send their daughters to school in the States, those fees are not subsidized. They'd have to pay all of that.
Mhm.
But just for them to have that opportunity, and I think it really changed when we have sort of a, I won't speak for Canadians, I'll speak just for myself. But I had this sort of lackadaisy attitude around post secondary education. It's such a given here that we can just do those things, even if it costs money. We have to get a student loan or something, but we kind of looked down our nose, or I did. Again, I won't speak for everybody, about, well, it shouldn't cost, and it's just too much money, and what's the point of it anyways, where that's such a privileged way of looking at it, at least
Mhm.
from my perspective it was. And it's
Yeah.
like when I saw those other families, the amount of work they did, the amount that they valued that kind of education, that it was not even a given. They would just figure it out, like
Yeah.
how they would make it work. But then there's me, who's like, well, I didn't have it, maybe my kids don't need it, and realizing that that's kind of a naive way of looking at it, or at least now, when I tried to talk to my kids about university, I mean, I did finally go myself, but, or anything, like really respecting education wherever it comes from. It's very different the way I looked at it, or my family looked at it, or how we were raised to look at it. It's different than what I saw from, other
Absolutely.
families
Yeah.
coming. Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. I think myself with certain sorry, I'm going to just step back from that again and then I'm going to start over and Rob can just take that out because I literally said I'm going to get a shirt that says I think made up for this podcast. It says I think. Okay? Cuz I think that. I say it all the time. I think and
I say, like.
like um I
I'm
think
14 years old.
holy crud.
I put on
Yeah.
my thinking meats.
Yeah, right? Uh, but I've been trying to, like, not say that so much that I think because it's
Beep,
yeah, I know. So I'm
beep.
like, I'm gonna
Well,
get
it
it
is good to it is good to know you think.
I know, right?
Let
But
me
I was
guess, Ricky. Do you think? What do you think,
do
Ricky?
you but do you think? I
I have
think
never
this.
noticed. I have never noticed you saying
Oh, I
that.
keep saying it and it's actually driving me nuts. So,
Mm.
um, but when it comes to
And
education, yeah, and when it comes to education, for me, what I've found, and I think it's because I have two kids with special needs, and for both of them, education is important to a point. Like we don't focus on the things that they can't do. We focus on the things that they can do, and we really, make it shine and make a big deal about it because I don't feel that they need to be reminded of the things that they can't do. So I always tell my other kids that I don't expect you to be the best. I just expect you to do the best. And for me, I I sort of struggle with that. Like there is an importance with education to a point. And then for me, in the other hand, it's like a social part of life for my other kids. And so I always tell
mhm.
my two able-bodied kids, school is important, but I know what you can do. So I do have a level of expectation, but I don't expect
Yeah.
you to be the best. Just do the best that you can. And when I see you not doing that, then that's when it's upsetting, right? But
Yeah.
I also tell them if you're struggling with something and you're getting help and you're still struggling with something, just do the best that you can because at the end of the day, you can upgrade and you can focus on something that you're interested in or, kind of like you, like, going back to school later in life. Like you can do those things. It's not all
Mhm.
about,
Mhm.
all of the things in school, just in my mind.
Yeah. I think that's so true, because education is not just about school. That's just one way,
Yeah.
right? There's all sorts of learning, all sorts of life education. Traveling is education.
Mhm.
Working and volunteering at some local place is education. It's not so much about just what, the academic knowledge.
Yeah.
That's just one way.
Yeah.
And I think when we started doing a little bit of traveling or exposing, even moving, I know my kids have said that moving from a smaller town or a smaller community to bigger centers, especially since we moved to bigger, like we moved to Ottawa and Montreal, Calgary, all bigger cities, right? And they have said that that's really changed their perspective as well, because just exposure to new things,
Yeah.
and that can happen in a variety of different ways. And I mean, I look back to when I was a kid and I was really insecure as a student. I was not a good student.
Hmm.
At high school, I thought made a mistake when they called my name up for a diploma, and we
Yeah.
may have talked about that in a different episode, but
Hmm.
I was never a good student, but I was a good person,
Yeah.
and I was really creative, and I was a really tried to be a really good friend. I had a lot of empathy,
Hmm.
but those were skills, in that day and age that were not certainly did. I didn't seem to feel that those were valuable, at
Hmm.
least until I was older. Turns out it helps me a lot in my career
Yeah.
now, but I didn't know that then. So I
Yeah.
think even just like I think that's such a good point, is really for all like able-bodied kids and people as well, is like celebrating the things you can do,
Hmm.
celebrating the things you're good at, and
Yeah.
lean into that. And there's always room
Absolutely.
for improvement in the other parts.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Well, and I
it's
like, I know for myself that it's just something that I really, I've seen other parents who, really put so much emphasis on the academic part of life. And it's just in my mind, it's not worth making your kid feel a certain way because they're not catching. Like, everybody learns different. We all process information
mhm,
differently. My one son, his auditory processing is absolutely phenomenal. Like my oldest son. Um Whereas, like, my others, it's visual. They have to process things visually. But him, he can hear it
mhm,
and he can process it and he's on it. So we all learn differently, and so I don't think that there's a point in sort of pressuring our kids to be the norm. If that, like,
yeah,
I mean, I
yeah,
don't think there's any norm, but for myself growing up, I was smart enough to know that I could do just enough to get by because I hated school.
hmm,
I thought, this is so boring. My brain is over here creating all sorts of, like, crazy stories and fun things. And I loved art and all of those things. And, um, but I was smart enough to do just enough to get by. And it was, I now older, if I maybe had, kind of applied myself, I would have been, out there. I would have been, whatever. I would have been great in school. But I think I got by just to get through. But then I got bored
aw,
and I dropped out of high school. I went back and I dropped out again. And I just have never, I'm just not one of those people. Like, I want to not be in school, but I think
yeah,
it's just
yeah.
everybody's different, right?
It was different, really different for me when I went back later. Now that's years later, right?
Yeah.
So it's apples and oranges, but
Yeah.
I know if I mean every single report card is Raylene's head is in the clouds. Raylene needs to apply herself. Raylene doesn't seem to be paying attention. If Raylene would
Hmm.
only, and I whenever I heard that, I just felt so defeated.
Yeah.
It just affirmed what I was worried about, that I
Mhm.
wasn't smart, even though
Yeah.
I probably was very smart. Nobody really recognized that or helped me know it, more importantly, right? So
Yeah.
only felt the shame from not being a good student. And I had a brother who, my older brother's really smart, very and academically smart, right? Like,
Hmm.
so his teachers always really loved him because he did fit into their standard of what they wanted for a student to be. He's really kind, he's a polite guy, like he's
Yeah.
still all those things. But I just, we were very like close in age, 11 months apart, and often we're in the same classroom because
Hmm.
in many small schools, of course, they have double grades, right,
Yeah.
in the class. And so I always felt really like I was being compared, and that it just shut me down. Like,
Hmm.
I'm not a competitive person in any way. So it wasn't like I was always trying to be, even my own best. I just decided and assumed very early on that I could not achieve,
Yeah.
that wasn't going to be for me. And it's interesting because these patterns follow families, right?
Yeah.
These genetic sort of, whether it's ADHD or some form of autism, like there's all,
Oh
like, could
yeah.
be anything, right? It could just be highly creative people. But I would be interested to know, in the family or the relatives that watch this podcast and see this episode, it just like if that's you, if
Mhm.
that description of, follows other members of our family, where they were probably really creative, couldn't focus or in the way that school kind of mandated. But I don't
Yeah.
know, it was different for grandparents in that age because they were on the farm. Women didn't really go to school for that
Mhm.
long. They were not really expected to. I know Granny Rosella went to school later in life. She was 40 before she went back to university, or went to university and became a psych nurse. She was one of my heroes,
Yeah.
that she inspired me, and she inspired other people in our family too. So it's just interesting.
Yeah. I think so too. I mean, I think it's a conversation that yourself and me have had about going back to school, because I've thought about that, going back to school. Um Sometimes I like to think that like I would have made a really good lawyer, so um but that's a long time. It's a long time to do all of that, and there's something to be said about time and finding it to
Yeah,
do things,
yeah,
right? And it's just, it has to be right. But for me, I feel like there's just so much more out there than
yeah.
just school in
Well,
itself.
and I know, and I hear that, and I was so. I mean, I've told this story, I'm sure. I don't know if on the podcast or just between us, but
Hmm.
I my mom, like, died,
Hmm.
and that's when I kind of gave my head a shake and said, "Okay, what now?"
Yeah.
And it was, sometimes it's like those really big events where, I don't know what it was, but somehow that kind of woke me up to maybe my own mortality, right? The own
Hmm.
My own time left in this world, and am I doing it the way I'm proud of,
Yeah.
right? And school or not school was actually not the most important lesson in that. For me, the most important lesson was that I was not achieving what inside I knew I could do.
Hmm.
And I wasn't doing those things, because I had a lot of kids and that was easy to hide behind
Oh
them.
yeah.
Um and 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 I my kids needed less in many ways than your family does at this stage, right? But I know I could have done, whether it's school or whether it was something else, I know I could have achieved more, and I knew that I wanted to. And it was when my mom passed away, because she passed away really suddenly, and it was super tragic
Hmm.
for all of us, right? It was not expected. And that sometimes when those events happen so abruptly like that, it's like
Hmm.
you don't even have time to give your head a shake. And and um and that was a time for me where I had to really evaluate, how was I going to move forward with the rest of my life in a way that I was proud of.
Yeah.
And I looked at my mom, was a super accomplished woman. I think she had multiple
Oh
degrees.
yeah.
She was consistently always educating herself. She really valued that. Um, but I think the thing about it, and the thing I wanted, was to satisfy a curiosity. I'm very curious already,
Hmm.
so trying to figure out what kind of career, what kind of life I wanted that way was already in the back of my mind. But it was I don't know. I think sometimes when something big like that happens, it's like, okay, now what?
Hmm.
And I had to really process that. And I had been trying to build my own business on my own, certainly had been doing that for many years. And it felt like the one thing was the academic piece was the
Hmm.
missing piece that I just hadn't yet tried. And I'm glad I did it. I mean, it was
Yeah.
hard, but I'm really glad. I needed to prove to myself that
Hmm.
I could do it. That was probably the biggest lesson.
Yeah. And I can see that, like I think to myself, like, yeah, going back to school and, like following through till the end would be such an accomplishment and like such a great feeling for yourself, right? And it's just, I can see that. But it's also,
Well,
that's a big step to take.
it was, yeah, it's a big step, and it's the timing, right?
Yeah.
I did a freaking 4-day wilderness fast. This, I guess, I guess when we started this episode and you're like, what's up? I forgot all about that. I did that last week.
Yeah.
Probably because I was so malnourished and like tired and hungry that I forgot that but yeah, I was up in the bush for 4 days, well, 3.5 days, but I did a 4 day and 4 night fast.
Hmm.
And for some of that, well, all of it, I was up in the bush by myself. There was a really good friend and person who was supporting me was there for a couple of the nights, but she was in a tent further in the bush, so the idea is you can't see each other, right?
Mhm.
Um, but you go up there with no books, no nothing. Like you don't go in with
Yeah.
anything. You can have a little tent and that's it. And so that was quite an experience. But like I could talk about that on another episode, but I we've used the phrase before, and it's education, it's doing the 4-day wilderness fast, it's raising your kids in a way that makes you proud and celebrates. It's like we can do hard things.
Mhm.
It's just we sometimes dismiss them as not important. And I think that's probably a pretty sad thing. We just
I
move
think so.
on and
Yeah.
don't celebrate.
Well, and it's easy, right? It's easy to kind of get caught up in your everyday life and not step to the side and say, you know, I want to do something like this for myself, because you're just in it,
Mhm.
right? And when you're in it, it's hard to kind of see, what's out there. I mean, I
Yeah.
find for myself, I don't want to speak for everybody, but that's how I feel. Because, like, for myself, like, I'm stuck in it. And I shouldn't say stuck in it like it's a bad thing, right? But it's just like, that's like, again, I have two kids that need me, and they need
Mhm.
me around the clock. And so switching off with Rob, somebody has to be around, right? So it's kind of
Mhm.
hard to step out and make something like that work. Is it worth it? Yeah, absolutely it would be. Is it something I could make work? Probably, but it would be like, in my mind, I'm thinking, how do I make it work? Because it's just,
Well, yeah. And it's timing because it doesn't have to be now. It can
yeah,
be it's like I run the risk of it sounding like I'm preaching at you that you
yeah,
should go to school because I don't actually think everybody needs to. I think that's
hmm,
something I needed to do for my
yeah,
own curiosity and for my own like get
hmm,
out of my own way kind of thing. But I think that the kind of education you have, the kind of things you do in your everyday life, those are experiences most people never get,
hmm,
right? It's a whole type of learning that most people don't aren't exposed to,
yeah,
right? It's all valuable,
yeah,
but it's just timing. You can't do everything. Granny said that. You
yeah,
can't do everything. You can do all the things you want. You just might not be able to do them all at the same time.
yeah,
And that is a huge lesson.
yeah.
But I do want to say we've kind of diverged into
I know.
poor Rob is going to have to edit this down because we're like 45 minutes in. We kind of rambled,
That's
which
all
is
right.
okay.
It's okay.
But I do want to ask you a really important question, if you are okay with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you ready to go down into Granny's basement?
I am ready. I am.
Because I
But
have
we
a
have to
little
like
story.
tiptoe. We have to like be quiet, and sneak down there so nobody notices.
I don't think any of us were very sneaky or tiptoey.
No, not at all. I think we're just all over the place.
We are. That's
Yeah.
okay. That's what makes us lovable and
Right?
special.
Yeah. Special, yes.
I well, I do want to share a story, and this is something you'll recognize some of the characters in this for sure, but I
Okay.
I will take it away if you don't mind. And I'm just
No.
going to read it because as usual, neither one of us is memorizing things.
No.
So,
I
it's
have
on my computer. So,
I
I'm
don't have
looking
room.
down here, not up here. I know.
Yeah.
Please forgive us, everybody. We're
It's all
still
right.
new. We're finding our
Yes, we are
rhythm.
new.
Well, we don't know how new because we don't know when this episode will air, right?
Yeah, that could
This could
be.
be,
I mean,
in 2 years from when we started. We don't know.
it could be.
We're gonna spread it out.
Totally spread it out as thin as possible.
All right. So I want to talk to you about, and I did talk about like kind of a creepy house in another episode, and this is
Mhm.
not that house, but
Yeah.
weirdly enough, this particular story does involve a house and some issues in a house. So the information I got, and I'll source it in the show notes, but the information I got was that this house was either built by or owned by Madonna, and Madonna ended up. I'm not sure if she sold this house to this next person, but it was. I think it was built in 1997, and it was sold to Britney Spears,
Oh.
and so it's in LA, like the Hollywood Hills or
Mhm.
somewhere. So in 2001, and the Madonna thing, I'm not 100% sure if that's correct, but that's what I read, is that the house was built by Madonna. And in 2001, at 19 years old, Britney Spears purchased the home on the Sunset Strip, which she shared with Justin Timberlake. After an intense party weekend, Britney needed to relax, so she recruited a friend of a makeup artist, Julia Kay, to come to the house and do a Reiki healing session for her. Spears was convinced that the session opened a portal that allowed evil spirits to enter. She claimed that there were two spirits, a man and woman, who tried to harm her and push her down the stairs. Britney Spears began to say that to stay at the Casa Del Mar Hotel, and she put her house on the market. So weird things were happening to Britney Spears. She was saying that there was a spirit of a man and woman that were like trying to harm her. So she got spooked and decided she didn't want to stay there and moved into a hotel. You know,
Yeah.
it's already creepy. Like if you feel like you're being watched or shoved down the stairs by. And I'm thinking, was she partying a lot at that time? I don't know, but
Was she
but
pushed
yeah,
or did she fall? You
did
know?
she just trip over her big clunky shoes in the
Yes.
90s? I don't know.
Was she walking in the dark?
But however,
Yeah.
she put the house on the market, and a couple years later, somebody else bought it. Do you know who that was? Who bought that house? Does this
I
ring a bell to you at all?
no.
Hey, so in 2003, Brittany Murphy bought the house. Do you remember
Oh,
who Brittany Murphy was?
yeah.
So she was the actress in Clueless, one of the actresses in Clueless. She was in, what was that movie with, I want to say, uh,
She did
Michael Douglas, where she is nonverbal. She's like traumatized and nonverbal. I can't remember that movie. It was a really good movie.
she did a movie with Dakota Fanning too where she was like a housekeeper or not a housekeeper, a nanny?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah.
What was that movie
Oh,
called? Do you remember it?
I can't.
Dakota Fanning was really young.
Yes.
Yeah.
What
It'll
was?
come to us.
Yes,
We'll
I know.
stick it. We'll stick it in the show notes. But anyways, in 2003, Brittany Murphy bought this fully furnished home from Britney Spears and moved into it with her husband Simon Monjack
Mm.
and her mother Sharon Murphy. According to Monjack, Brittany Murphy hated the house. She said it felt unlucky and would ask to stay in a Beverly Hills hotel. However, so the same thing as Britney Spears, just didn't feel good about the
Yeah.
house, didn't want to stay there, felt creeped out by it for whatever reason. According to Monjack, Britney, yeah, she said it was unlucky. However, Murphy did feel a special attachment to the main bathroom. It's a weird thing to be attached to, but okay.
Yes.
Monjack said that the bathroom was her comfort zone in the home, and she spent hours in there reading magazines, singing to herself, writing poetry, sampling her beauty products, and looking at herself in the mirror. In 2009, okay, so that's 2003. Fast forward 2009, Murphy is found unresponsive in the bathroom by her mother and was taken to hospital where she died. Her cause of death was reportedly untreated pneumonia combined with anemia and drug intoxication from painkillers and cold medication. So I had read in another place that when they did, so there was December 20th, so right before Christmas, and she had been struggling with pneumonia, and she was also very frail already. She was anemic. She
Mhm.
was, a young Hollywood, so probably not super healthy. When they did the autopsy, at first her husband was against doing an autopsy, did not want that to happen, and which kind of cast some suspicion, right? And so they did the autopsy and said that she had died from untreated pneumonia. And the drugs that were in her system were not illicit drugs. They were just a body full of like NyQuil and things that you would take to try to remedy your pneumonia. But it was just too much, and her heart gave out, and she died because of that. Simon's mother, Linda Mojack, later claimed that near the end of, oh, sorry, back up a minute. So, okay, so there was suspicion that maybe her husband had something to do with it. He kind of had a bad reputation from past relationships, and people had said that he was quite controlling over Brittany Murphy, and so they wondered if he had something to do with it. However, just 5 months later, he was found dead on the property, and his cause of death was also reported as pneumonia and anemia. So this, like, very, if you look at the picture, she's this like little frail person And you
Mhm.
could probably imagine or guess that if, if she was taking a lot of even over the counter drugs and had no, immune system to fight it off, being an already small and pretty frail person, that could do her heart in. But this guy was
Yeah.
like a big
He
guy.
was a
He
big
was like
guy.
a he was not frail or anything, and to just have and just up and die on the property 5 months later of pneumonia and anemia
Mhm.
feels
A little
really
strange.
like strange.
Yeah.
His mother, Linda Mojak, later claimed that near the end of his life he was having hallucinations, and he was saying, excuse me, there were things crawling out of his skin. In the 11 years following the couple's death, the property has been listed 10 times.
Mm.
And there is a documentary about Brittany Murphy. I have not watched it, but I saw little clips of it that were saying um, the house, people did think there was hauntings or something going on there. um, they ended up leveling it to the ground,
Mhm.
including new landscaping, everything, and rebuilding this house from the ground up.
Oh yeah.
But some of the theories that people have put out there um, are that it's like a reverse haunting. Many followers of the case speculate that malevolent spirits who visited Spears were actually the spirits of Murphy and Mojak haunting their home from their future deaths. So, wait,
Oh.
I have to wrap my head around that. So, Britney Spears is being haunted by Brittany Murphy and her husband's spirits, but they died after Britney moved out of the house, Britney Spears. So they're like
That's
time traveling
goat.
spirits,
That's
future death. Yeah,
that's a
not
little
okay.
okay. That's a little far fetched. I
I can maybe get on board with like some hinky paranormal activity, but
yeah.
that seems like
That's
my
just a
brain
little
can't
bit that
stretch that
yeah.
far.
Yeah, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
a ghost and I'm gonna, travel
Go
back here to
go back to the future
yeah.
ghostings.
That seems a little
Gosh.
crazy.
Okay. So then another one is after Murphy's death, there were rumors that her death had been staged by the other residents of the house, her husband and her mother. There were reports that Monjack had been withdrawing large sums of money from Murphy's account, and that Sharon Murphy had continually asked for money during Brittany's life. These theories were not helped by Mojack and Sharon Murphy's infamous photo shoot, in which they photographed themselves mourning, posing with pictures of Brittany. And the note here is like, look up these pictures because they're crazy. So we'll have to find some and
Yeah,
post them on our
put them on
account.
there.
But so this is her husband and her mother, allegedly withdrawing a lot of money from her account, and that it was maybe staged by that this death was staged by the
Mhm.
mother and the husband to get the money, right?
And I had,
And then
I just had heard that, like, afterwards there was, like, a relationship between, like, her mom and him, and that
ew,
yeah. Well, I'm
ew.
quite
Well, let's find that out.
but I'm, like, quite surprised
It
that she
is.
was with him because, like, she was beautiful and he was, he definitely got the better end of the stick, right? Like
Well, that is actually quite normal in Hollywood, especially when it's like young actress, older, screenwriter, whatever he
yeah.
was. But but yeah, the whole family relationship thing, if he got together with her mom, like that's creepy as hell.
Yeah.
Um so there's a couple quotes from this is from Juliana Julianne K, and that was her who's makeup that's Britney Spears makeup artist, or maybe also Brittany Murphy. She said she had a place on Sunset Plaza, up on Sunset Plaza, and I'm gonna say this, that it was really weird. She had the place on Sunset Plaza. She called me. I had my friend do Reiki healing on her. He had come up. I guess she'd had a crazy partying weekend and needed to relax. He left, and she swears to God that he opened some sort of spirit portal or something, and these bad spirits had come in. So this was Britney Spears' makeup artist.
Mm,
So remember earlier in the story,
yeah.
I said when Britney Spears lived there, she had like a big party, and she just felt really off and wanted to like do some healing. Brought in this her artist recommended this guy as a Reiki healer, which I already don't
Mhm.
understand anything about.
No.
um but that somehow this guy opened up a portal and bad spirits came in. And then it goes on to say, Brittany, you said, and it was like a male and female, and they're trying to like push us down the stairs or push Brittany down the stairs or something crazy like that. It was so bad that when she left, she went to Casa del Mar Hotel to stay there and never went back to the house. She goes, I know you're going to think I'm crazy. I'm not crazy. I know what I saw. I know what I felt. And I was like, no, I believe that shit too. So it didn't really weird me out that much. But she was very persistent about it, and she put her house on the market. And so, yeah, if Britney Spears felt that strongly about it, left that house and never went back to it, like
Mm-hmm.
something must have been going on, because even if you're having like a bad party, like a bad trip or something, it doesn't go on, right?
No.
So,
But even too, for
and
10 other
go ahead.
people to want to sell it, like, or it to be on the
Yeah,
market 10
they're
other
just not
times.
keeping it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and last I heard, and I should have looked up kind of where it's at now, but they just had plowed it to the ground and
Mm-hmm.
started over. But then another theory is mold. You know, after the couple's death, there was speculation that was mold in the home, which would explain hallucinations and paranoia experienced by Spears, Murphy, and Monjack. But this theory was dismissed by a medical examiner's office. However, in addition to Monjack's mother claiming that her son experienced hallucinations, she also claimed that he had found severe mold in the home. The house has since been torn down and rebuilt, so they can't say for sure. And then I found this little bit on Reddit where someone says, as someone who's been poisoned by a house full of toxic mold hidden in the walls and ceilings and floors and legitimately thought I was going to die before I figured out what was poisoning me, that house was full of mold. Toxic mold can cause terrifying psychological symptoms, depression, anxiety, paranoia, insomnia, hallucinations, rage, etc. It can also make you lose tons or gain tons of weight, and it can make you seem like you're on drugs. It causes so many physical symptoms, and doctors don't know or understand mold toxicity yet. So they just prescribe you a bunch of pharmaceutical drugs to mask all the symptoms mold creates. And both Brittany and her husband were on so many prescriptions.
Mm-hmm.
And it obviously causes cold, flu, respiratory symptoms, and pneumonia. It doesn't have to be growing in you to poison you. I have had zero doubt, or I have zero doubt that the house killed Britney and her husband, and likely also contributed to Britney Spears' mental breakdown. I recently watched one of the docu series, and every single thing pointed to mold. They also razed the house to the ground, and after they died, the new owners built a new house entirely. So one of the other things is, if there was any financial advantage to it not being labeled mold, because if there was black mold in the house or something, I imagine the builder or whoever sold them that house could be accountable. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, I'm not a lawyer. But that is just a snippet of the story of Brittany Murphy and the house that she lived in. And I remember hearing a lot about this when it, because I knew who Brittany Murphy
Mm-hmm.
was. We watched those movies,
Yeah.
but our minds immediately go to, oh, some drug induced hallucinations and she died from an overdose, right? We always just
Yeah.
think that when it comes to, but not something so treatable or understandable as toxic mold in
Mm-hmm.
your home, and it's causing all the symptoms, and people are just assuming that you're you know, high all the time,
Yeah.
or
But my question would
so
be is
yeah,
like,
pretty interesting.
when you're buying a house, do you not get it inspected? So, like, if all these people are buying this house, would you not have somebody inspecting it and having like a mold test in it? Because I know, like, with us, we had like we had a like a pretty we had a guy with like an infrared camera and stuff come in and do an inspection on our house, and with all these
Wow.
like other things and stuff to make sure, because a house is a huge investment. You don't want to be, and there's stuff that can
Well,
be
and I
hiding behind the walls.
imagine, yeah, I imagine this particular house, I mean, how many millions of dollars would it have been?
Hmm.
It wouldn't have been and I guess it was early 2000s, right? So I don't know if the technology has advanced, I'm sure, since then, but you would think at some point, inspections of these houses, they would find something.
Yeah,
But I
that
just
would just
wonder,
be.
I guess that's where my conspiracy brain goes, was there
Hmm.
some sort of advantage to that being covered up,
Uh-huh.
that
Yeah.
not being disclosed in some way.
Yeah.
So, because it
Could
feels
be.
like it would be, And if it was mold and they had to like knock that house to the ground and start all the way over, it
Mhm.
must have been super bad. But how
Yeah.
could they keep that covered up, right? If that's what they found out had killed Brittany Murphy and her husband. First of all, why not Brittany's mom who lived there? So did she not have any of these symptoms as well?
Mhm. And
You
you think
know,
it would probably hit
I
her
don't
harder.
know.
She's older, right? Like she's
Hmm.
elderly. So, like you don't always have,
Hey, watch
I
it.
don't
She's
know this.
probably my age at this time.
Oh, yeah, right.
Oh, my aching knees.
Yeah, I know. I was going to actually do a post with all my 40 and ups. What's hurting today? Because I woke up and I had like a
Oh no.
spinal cord injury because I was like, my
Oh
back.
no.
I can barely move. So,
That's not cool.
yeah,
Yeah,
my
now when I
knees.
bend down, my knees make some sort of sinewy noise. I don't know what that is. It feels
Is
it's not
this
like a
even
it's not
legal?
like a joint click. It's more like a, you know, like
We
meat in there is
need
stretching.
help.
What
Yeah.
is that? Why are your knees
Yeah,
making that sound?
it's not supposed to do
Like
that. I
it's
actually just watched a
cartilage stretching.
yeah, I actually just watched a TikTok with this girl who was like working her legs in the gym, and she like pushed the thing back and brought it back, and you can see her knee go, and she's like, "I need help. I need help."
No.
And I was like, "You think you need help?" Like I would be
Oh no.
screaming. But yeah, you can see like the terror on her face. It was gross. I don't like stuff like that, but I was like, "Oh,
Mm.
what's this video?"
Whoops.
Busted knee.
Shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Getting old's fun. It's
Uh,
great.
fun.
Yes.
Well, what do you have for us tonight
I
on this
actually
lovely episode?
I actually um have a listener story to tell.
We have listeners?
I
That's so
know.
exciting.
And
Yay.
I know I'm actually kind of shocked. It was in our inbox and I was like, "What?" Um
Nice.
yeah. So I mean, I'm just going to share it. I'm not going to say any names just cuz, that's I don't want to out
Anonymity
anybody.
and all.
Yeah. So it just says, "Hi there. I just finished listening to your debut episode and wanted to share a bit about my relationship journey with my husband. We didn't meet until later in life. He was 38 and I was in my early 30s. By then, he had had two kids from a previous relationship. It wasn't exactly the fairy tale start, pardon me, you might imagine, but it was real and heartfelt. When we first got together, it wasn't this immediate spark. Instead, it was slow, steady connection that grew deeper over time. I embraced his kids wholeheartedly as part of my life, and it felt very natural, even though I have never had kids of my own. I never tried to replace their mom. I just wanted to be a positive presence in their lives. Blending families isn't always easy, especially when you're both set in your ways. But we have made it work by communicating openly and honestly. We didn't shy away from the tough conversations, whether about parenting, finances, or our own fears. We took our time to build strong foundation before deciding to marry. Now, after 6 years of marriage, I can honestly say it was worth every moment. We've built a partnership based on mutual respect and understanding. Getting married later in life gave us both a chance to really know ourselves and each other, and that made our relationship stronger. I hope this story gives you hope if you're wondering about finding love later in life. It's never too late to find something real and lasting. Take care. So I thought it was just a
Mm,
sweet story, you know.
that is nice.
Yeah, I thought it was just, it kind of fit with our other episode, and I just
Mm.
wanted to share that. And I
What
thought,
was what was our episode one? I'm trying to remember. Was
it was lasting
must
relationships.
have been about relationships.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
both of our lasting relationships we were talking about, because we've both been
Oh yeah.
married for what seems like forever, but not that long. So, you know, um,
Forever, not forever.
yes, it doesn't seem like that much time has gone by, but it definitely has. So
Yeah.
it's kind of mind
I remember
blowing.
being in a restaurant with Trevor once, and it was a restaurant we went to really often because it was quite close to his work. So when we would join each other for lunch, him and his colleagues and would just go there quite often. And so the owner was a husband and wife, and so they knew him. They knew us when we
Mhm.
came in. So, get the same thing and, you know, talk a little bit or whatever. And I remember him saying something to us about, do you guys work together or whatever, and at that time we didn't, but we'd wanted to, or we had in the past or whatever. And he's like, I have to work with my wife every day, and he had a little bit of an accent, and so it was really like you're trying to understand. And
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, I have, and we're thinking, oh, that's really nice, you get to work with your wife every day. And he's like, no, I have to look at her face every day. And he puts his hand up like, I have to look at her face every day. And I'm like, ooh, I
Yeah.
don't want to. Glad
So
she didn't hear that.
so those were not good life choices.
Maybe don't go into business with your partner if you don't want to look at their face
No,
every day.
right? Yeah,
uh,
crazy.
Trev and I've always liked working together, but we have different working. Like there's definitely we can butt heads on different
Uh-huh.
things. I don't like being taught anything technical.
Mhm.
It's like trying to teach me math. I'm going to check out. I'm not going to pay attention. I'm not going to be happy with you that you're trying to teach me math,
Yeah.
even if I asked for
I
a
know.
lesson.
Yeah.
It's like how it is with tech as well. He's trying to set up the light or something for this podcast, and I'm like,
I know.
are you done?
I
Like,
know. I was just sitting here getting ready for this, and we were talking about the mic, and he's like, it needs to be close to your face. And I'm like, I know. And he's like, it needs to be close to your face. And I'm like, I know, but I'm not I'm not about to step into to recording, so it doesn't need to be in my face right now. But he's just trying to be helpful. But in my mind, I'm like, I just want to sit here for a minute. So,
just give me
you
a
know,
second. I just need a
yeah.
pause.
I don't think it's like, I think it's certain things that we work well with, and then other things I'm kind of like, I'm not interested in that at all. So I don't really want to work with you with that. So,
It's more for me. It's more just the mood I'm in the
yeah.
moment, right? Like my get in the mornings, I'm switched on. I can learn stuff. I'm happy
Hmm.
to, if I have to do my taxes, that's when I'm gonna do it. If I have to
Yeah.
write a report, that's when I'm gonna do it. But after 4 o'clock in the afternoon, don't ask me to do anything hard. Like I'm just not gonna be able to focus on. It's not my time of day. I
Yeah.
can't. That's when I need to start. Like I move all my tasks for that time of day are usually things that I really enjoy doing, or they're just like not mentally taxing because I
Hmm.
can't focus. Can't like
Yeah.
in the evenings. That's not my time.
Yeah. I find
But yeah.
I I don't know. I find I'm most creative in the middle of the night because my brain will
Oh,
wake me
good.
up. Yeah.
That's the
But
years of working night shifts that go.
it is. But it's
Yeah.
weird because even now, like I'll go to bed, but then it's like I can hear my brain talking, and so it wakes me up. And then I'm like, oh, I need to write that down, or I need to remember that, or oh, that's a good idea, or And I'm always like, and then I lay there and I'm like, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. Like I
Yeah.
should be sleeping.
Uh,
Yeah,
oh, I
it's dumb.
should read you. I want to read you. Okay, this was a 4 in the morning thought,
Oh, okay.
and I'm gonna read it to you. It's just really short. It's
Yeah.
important, and then we should wrap up so we don't keep
Yes.
boring people all night, all day long. Um, but okay, I got it. It's just right here. Okay, this is all the note says. Little girl to the left.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Woke up, no idea what that meant. I
Yeah.
wasn't drinking when I went to bed or anything like that.
Yeah.
No freaking clue. Little girl to the left. Is that
Mhm.
like, am I writing a book? Is it song lyrics? Am I
Uh-huh.
like, did I have some sort of sad moment about myself? Like, what the hell is
Yeah.
little girl to the left? What does that
Yeah.
mean? I don't
It's
know.
like
Happens to me a lot. Is it the
I
beginning of like Alzheimer's or something?
no.
I don't
No.
know.
It's that state of delusion between sleep and reality. It's um
No, I literally woke up in the night with this like brilliant thought
mhm.
and wrote it down.
It's like did you ever watch Seinfeld? Ever? No?
Not
Okay.
really. I found it super annoying.
Okay, so there's actually an episode where like Jerry wakes up in the middle of the night and on a post-it note he writes like three words and it's like he can't figure out what it is. And so he's asking everybody, asking everybody, asking everybody, and then finally he's like just sort of sitting there and this like old show comes on and the guy on the TV says something and he was like, "That's what it is." But he's like, "That's not funny at all. Like why would I write that down?" It's just like you do
I
strange
don't
things,
get
right?
it.
Why was that the thing? Yeah, I've done that.
Oh
I've
gosh.
scribbled and then I'm like, what did I scribble? Like, I don't even know what that is. It's fine. Yeah, our brains work great.
I want I want to press pause here because it'd be a nice segue for Rob.
Hmm.
Um, because I want to read you this little unbelievable flip fact. It's really short,
Okay.
but I'll do a. Hey Ricky, can I read you this little unbelievable fact I found?
Okay. So let's
It's a good one.
just wait because I gotta
Are you
like make
ready?
sure. Just wait, I gotta make sure because I don't
Mm-hmm.
want people thinking I have a cocaine problem because I keep rubbing my nose. So
There is no she has no problem with
no.
cocaine. Don't worry about it.
Woo. Okay.
All right,
And go.
this is unbelievable facts, and I'm crediting the actual like Facebook or whatever unbelievable fact. But Elvis Presley, so you've heard like Elvis Presley, everybody knows he liked kind of some weird food like peanut butter and
Hmm.
banana sandwiches. That's not weird, that's delicious.
Uh-huh.
But like peanut butter and bacon, like I've heard some, but whatever, teach their own.
Sure.
I grew up with kids that ate peanut butter with sweet pickle sandwiches, and it was
Uh-huh.
really good. So this says Elvis Presley once decided that he wanted a fool's gold loaf, a sandwich that contained a hollowed out loaf of bread filled with one jar each of creamy peanut butter, so a jar on one side of this bread,
Ooh.
and one side of grape jelly on the other side of the bread. So this would be like two halves of very weighty, a pound each.
Yeah.
And then so that's enough to stop his heart. Like we all
Yeah.
know that whatever. That's enough to stop his heart. But in he also goes ahead and puts a pound of bacon in it.
Oh, gross.
And that
Ugh.
that Presley, Elvis and his guests flew from Memphis to Denver to eat 22 of these sandwiches,
Gross.
each of which had 8,000 calories in it per sandwich. So I
That's
don't know how
gross.
many guests he had. It doesn't say. But they flew from Memphis to Denver to eat 22 of these sandwiches.
Who
Ugh,
signed up
so
for
gross.
that? Who signed up? Who was like, you know what? That sounds like a good
I mean,
idea.
come on. Honestly, if Elvis Presley asked you probably to go in his private jet from Memphis to Denver to participate in eating 22 of these, like, you'd just want to do it to say you did it. You'd want to do
I
it to be like, wait, are you punking me right now? Is this real? And I would just want to know.
But how many
So,
people
yeah.
actually ate it? And how many people did it take to eat each sandwich? Because that's
And
a
how
lot.
how many people were like really sick after? Because I
Probably
can't even
everybody.
imagine. That's so
Like,
gross.
just the thought of
Anyways,
eating it, I think I would be sick.
that
Yeah, this was
yeah,
great hanging
that's
out. We had so much fun. And this sandwich is
yeah.
disgusting. Like,
And
I
I will
don't,
never look at peanut butter or jam or bacon the same
yeah,
again.
that's, I have
But it would
some,
honestly the loaf of bread like hollowed out, so it'd be like
yeah,
two troughs
yeah,
of bread that have been. That's so gross.
that is gross. I
Anyways,
actually just watched,
that's
like about hollowing out loaves. I just watched a guy on TikTok who he does like these old recipes, like from like back in the day. And he just did one where they hollowed out a loaf and they put in like cream cheese and tuna and stuff in it. And it was like a sourdough one and they hollowed it out. And it was like, I was like, who's going to eat that? That's just wetness and gross.
oh yuck.
Yeah. So that's what the peanut butter and
Uh,
jelly thing kind of reminds me of, like wet bread, like that, I just, yeah.
so gross.
So gross. I don't even.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Anyways,
uh, hey, should I read a listener? A listener, what
read
is it? Email. Somebody read
listener,
a listener
a
email.
listener write in email
I
or
have an email, yeah, write in, but we got this email as well, a little while ago. So let me read it to you.
Mhm.
Um, hey ladies, I listened to your. I don't know if I like being called hey ladies.
Hey ladies.
I don't know. I
Hey
don't know about that.
ladies. Get
I think it's
funky. I
better.
don't
It's
even know.
better than. What are you doing? It's better. It's better than gals. I'm not a fan of gals
Or
either.
ma'am. Either ma'am.
That happens more and more and more. I don't even know. I'm trying
Oh,
to embrace it. Hi, ma'am.
I'm
Anyway.
not trying to embrace it at all.
All right. Well, I'll just go with what this
Yes.
listener wrote. Hi ladies. I listened to your episode and felt the need to share this little spooky encounter I had. Well, I like spooky encounters.
Yeah, me
Late
too.
one night at the old hotel I worked at as a night clerk. Sorry, I got to put my glasses on. That will be helpful. There. Um it was I was fairly new to this job, and tonight was the first night of me working on the front desk. The hotel was eerily quiet. It was so old, so it had the occasional creak of old floorboards and the hum of fluorescent lights. It was something to get used to, but there were other people working, so it didn't seem too bad. I was working the late shift, so around 3 a.m., the front door creaked open, and what I would call a figure wrapped in a dark coat entered. What? The the guest was fairly tall, and their face was obscured by a wide-brimmed hat pulled low. It seemed slightly weird, but it was also late, so it could be just a long day of travel. I guess that's what I said to rationalize the off-put feeling I was getting. It seemed to happen quickly. I was polite. So I didn't pre-read this. So I'm
Yeah.
like, wait, I'm trying to like process it as it, cuz I'm thinking, okay, it's 3 a.m. and the front door opens and there's a figure wrapped in what they would call a like a wide-brimmed hat pulled low and a dark coat. Like I'd be like,
I would be like,
no
"Where's
thank you.
911?
Um,
Where do we call?"
we're actually closed at the
Yes.
moment, and they say like there were other people around, so it wasn't scary. Like, where are these other
I know.
people
Are
right now?
they
Because
are
I'd
they in
be
the
like,
bathroom?
hello, like,
Like, did they
am I working
evaporate?
alone?
Like,
So anyways, it says it seemed to happen quickly. I was polite. Welcome, can I help you get checked in? The figure nodded slightly and showed me a key that showed me a key they had to one of our rooms. I noticed the number tag attached was for a room that had been out of order for years. Like, okay, stop. It was a physical key, like not a card.
I
So a physical key.
well,
Like, first
if
of
this
all,
is an
when
old
was
hotel,
this?
I mean, like in Leroy, I
Maybe
think we had keys,
where
right?
is this hotel? But it had
Maybe
okay,
it
so it's
was
for a
Leroy.
room that had oh gosh, this is for a hotel room that had been out of order for years. Room 327. They had told me about this room and said it was unusable. So I found it's very strange. However, the figure walked towards the elevator. Before I could process the situation and ask them any other questions, they had gone up the elevator. I did follow, and when the elevators opened with a soft ding, I hesitated to exit, but decided to
I would be like
check
this.
out.
I'd be like this to like if I was getting off that elevator, I'd be like, "Whoa, yeah," and I'd be, like
First of all, just let your guests be like they're already in the elevator.
yes.
Why chase them down?
Who
Um
investigates stuff? I don't understand. Like,
I
there's
know.
nothing good comes of investigating any of
This
this.
is the equivalent of the girl in their underwear going outside the cabin in the middle of the night to
Yes.
check out the noise.
Yeah, we don't
Whatever.
do that. It's a no.
So when they write, I hesitated to exit, I'm thinking, no shit, Sherlock. Like, yeah,
Well,
I'd
I
be
would have just went
hesitating
back
to
down.
exit too. So, anyways, they say I walked up to the room. The door was weirdly ajar, and I could see it was completely empty. A thick layer of dust and darkness, only the moon lit up parts of the room. It definitely scared me, and as I stepped back from the front door, a seriously cold draft drifted through the hallway. Turning back, I could see the room's door wide open and the tall figure standing in the middle of the room, face still hidden. It was as if the figure was waiting for me. I think I froze in fear, not knowing what to do.
Did you
Oh,
pee? Because I would have.
um, I'm just gonna quickly use your bathroom here because I need
Yeah,
to change my
quickly. I
shorts.
wouldn't even make it to the
All
bathroom in my
all of
pants.
the sudden, hey, I don't know where this story came from. This can't be real. Really? Like, this is all of a sudden the lights flickered and I could hear a chilling whisper welcome that said welcome back. With an unbelievable shiver, I fled the scene terrified. I felt as though the figure was following me. So out of panic, I took the stairwell. As soon as I reached, well, yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
mean, I
would.
get that, because are you gonna like wait
You're
for
not
the
gonna be like
elevator?
wait. Yes, you're gonna be like
You
I'm
know,
panicking, button
yeah,
pushing. No, I'd be
yeah,
running.
yeah. Just hold, please. And then, yeah, I'd be worried. I'd get in that elevator, the door would close, and they'd be standing beside me.
Yes.
As soon as I reached my coworker, I reported the incident. There wasn't much either of us wanted to do, but the next morning, maintenance and and management went up to investigate and found the door to room 327 had been secure like it had been for years. Management unbolted the locks and entered the space to see inside. It was completely unoccupied, just as it had been for years. I made the decision that this was not the job for me. Oh, I
Um.
have so many questions. So, okay, so why was that room unoccupied in the first place? Like,
Mhm.
what was it about room 327 that they couldn't use it? Like, they never explained that. If
Yeah.
you are the one who wrote this in or sent this, please tell us,
Yes. Why
what
was?
about room 327? And how come
Did
it's
it
a
have
key and
mold
not
in
a.
it?
It did have mold from one of our
Like,
last episodes. Like, what?
like it's what?
um yeah, okay, so I need to say this for all of you who are writing in. We've been getting a few people writing in here and there. It's so nice. Tell us the whole story.
Yeah.
We have to know. Don't leave parts out.
We
And
need
if
details.
we
I
need to do
need.
some of the research, we can do it. If it's
Yeah.
a story you heard and maybe there's more info or people we can talk to, but we want your stories,
Mhm.
definitely. But oh my gosh, this just leaves me with so many questions.
Yes.
So hopefully the person who wrote this can do a little follow up if they have. I want to know why the room was not usable. I want to know how old was this hotel that they didn't have key cards, because they had elevators, right? So
Mhm. Yes, but this person could be
that's a
older
lot.
too, right? And this could have happened many years ago, right? So,
True,
right?
true. Yeah,
Let's not
but
just
we don't
assume
know
it's a
because they
day of
didn't give us
technology.
all the info.
Yeah.
Let's get back on
Yeah.
email, go back to this person and say, "Come on."
Yeah. It's still a good
But
story. I
all
mean, I would like
but yeah,
to I would like to
but all
actually ask you some questions about
we
your
need a
decision making.
this we did say this podcast wouldn't be about like interviewing people, but I
Yeah.
think we could make an exception
Yes,
if
because I
somebody
would
has
like
a
to.
really good story or more to it.
Yes, I have a few questions. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too.
Have your decision making
Um
skills gotten any better after this? Because
yeah,
I would
and
reflect.
I'm
So,
not working. No, I like how they ended that. I decided this was not the
yeah.
job for me. Yeah,
Yeah.
I get it.
I I think
Uh,
so.
anyways, I think that's it, Ricky. I
Yeah,
think we should ask people to send in your stories. We'd love to hear them.
absolutely.
Uh, as Rob would like us to say, lather, rinse, repeat. I mean, Rob says
Isn't it
subscribe, share, follow. Or
maybe?
does Rob say
Is it head and shoulders, knees and toes? I don't
head and
know.
shoulders? Rob says we're just gonna
uh
splice Rob's voice in at the
we're
end of this
gonna
so he can
we're gonna
tell
he's
you
gonna
what
be
you want
mad.
to
I'm gonna create
follow,
more
like,
work.
subscribe.
Yes. Yes.
Good night, Ricky.
Like,
Thank you guys all for being in Granny's basement with us.
yes, thank
Have a
you.
great week.
Yes, have a great week. See you next time.
Bye.